Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Predictive Playbook Show Special Edition. It's January the 13th, 2022. This show is powered by the Predictive Playbook and presented to you by Sportsmemo TV. This is a special edition, as I said. I'm going to be delving into a deep dive into some live in-game betting strategies for the NFL playoffs here, starting up this Saturday with the Raiders and Cincinnati Bengals at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. So the ability to place wagers in NFL games while the game is being played has become another entertaining opportunity. Undoubtedly makes the game even more exciting, at least for me. I'm sure it does for you. But you have to make sure that this entertaining decision is done right, and it's done with discipline, and you use the strategies correctly and don't get carried away and end up with a bet that is 10 times what your normal bet size is. So the first betting strategy I'm going to talk about is, you've heard it on the shows I've done before, the pre-flop in-game strategy. So part of this bet is done before the game starts, and two parts of 25% each are done during the game. But again, the two most important things to remember in-game live betting strategies is discipline and also having a plan that is well-defined in place before the game starts. The number one reason people lose in the in-game betting is sometimes they try to hedge what has been a bad pre-flop bet, or what they presume is a bad pre-flop bet. As you will see, third quarter favorites that have 3.5 or more points that are trailing at the end of the third quarter have produced enough comebacks that you can make significant money on the money line in doing that. But that'll come a little bit later in the show. So the pre-flop betting strategy is where I will take 50% of my normal bet size, which is a 4% bet. We run 3, 4, 5% of the bankroll. So whatever your bankroll is, do 3, 4, 5%, and that's it. And stick to that, and don't all of a sudden, because it's a Super Bowl, get crazy and think, oh, I'm going to do a 20%er now because I know that team's going to win, because that doesn't work real well. Even if you win, it's just a bad thing to do. So back to the pre-flop strategy, I will put 50% down in this Saturday's game. And we're going to give a specific example of what I'm doing here. I have a 4% bet on the Raiders. And the Raiders right now are +5, maybe +5.5. They opened at 6. So the money is coming in on the Raiders. I'm not worried about that being a public fade type of event right now. It seems to be just a normal betting flow. And I'm not concerned about that at the present time. And we're recording this on Thursday. So once the game begins, after I've had that 50% pre-flop bet placed, I'm going to look for an opportunity to get 2 25% bets wagered. So 25%, if I'm a $100 bettor, I already have 50% on the Raiders at +5. I'm now looking to add 2 25% wagers, which would be $25 each for the $100 bettor, at predefined levels. One of the predefined levels is that I'm going to be sitting there, essentially, as ridiculous as it sounds, wanting the Bengals to score first and score with a touchdown. Remember, it doesn't matter who scores first. It matters who has the most points at the end of the game and what those points are. Since we have a 5-point dog, we just have to have the Raiders lose by 4 or win the game outright. So keep that in mind. And we're trying to picture, buying, looking at a stock of Apple, and it's been correcting. It's been going down over the last several days, last several weeks. Think of this as you're buying something that is an asset like the Raiders at a cheaper price, and you're scaling into your position. So instead of having 100% pre-flop, now you're going to have 3 different betting levels, as you will see in the example, 2 of which can offset the pre-flop bet, and you walk away with just losing the vig on the pre-flop bet. So it's a very prudent strategy. I like to do it, especially in the NBA, because the NBA has volatility like no other sport. And what I mean by that is you have high scoring games, and you also have situations where a team will run off 10 unanswered points. The same thing could happen in the NFL. We've seen several 2, 3 scores without an answer. I will never forget this past Sunday. I didn't think the 49ers were just going to lay down and go away. It was 17-0, and it was a pizza money bet. And pizza money bets are exactly that, the cost of a pizza. And it should never exceed $20. no matter what your normal game size is. Even if you bet a dime a game, pizza money bets are for fun and entertainment. So that worked out pretty good. And that's what I'm talking about, buying things cheap. And cheaper means cheaper price, better price for the bettor than you would have got if you would have put the whole bet on the game before the game started. So now the key is the second piece. The second piece is going to be 2.5 to 3.5 points better than what we got on the first piece of 25%. So if Cincinnati scores first and it's 7-0 in the first quarter, that in-game line is going to be somewhere Raiders plus 8.5 is my estimation. But no matter where it is, it's going to be higher than the plus 5 that I got on the pre-flop bet. So whatever that line is, while the commercials are going on because Cincinnati scored a touchdown, take the time to put 25% more on the best available line you can get. Don't pay minus 120 VIG. You have time. There's a lot of commercials. That line will change and it'll be pretty volatile. I use BetMGM. I think they are the best for the in-game. It's just my personal opinion. I don't have any endorsement money with them. It'd be nice, but I don't. But I found them to be the best and most fair too. You'll get minus 115 and that's okay, but sometimes you can get minus 105. So if you be patient with it, and of course, if you see minus 105 and it's plus 8.5, then grab it. So that's the first piece, and that's how we would want it to go. Now, there's other scenarios, of course. There's a million different scenarios we could go through where we could get the plus 8.5, but assuming that they score first in the first quarter, that's the scenario that would be optimal. So now the second piece is going to be looking to get 10.5. Okay, we now don't want Cincinnati to score again. Maybe, a field goal might be nice, and we might be able to get the 10.5 that way. But there's going to be situations during the first half where the score might be 10-3 Cincinnati. Let's say they have the lead. And the Raiders have a 3rd and 12 situation. That line will creep up closer and closer and closer to that 10.5 point level. And there's going to be times in the game where you have to be contrarian, and it'll look like your team is not going to get this done, but you literally have to bet on them that they will at some point in the near future get it done. And what I mean by get it done is, let's say the Bengals are in the red zone, and it's second down and goal to go from the 5. The Raiders line is going to increase as a dog. If it goes to third down and goal to go from the 2, that's probably where you're going to get the best available price. And this is a key part of the game. And everybody calls them 4-point plays. If the Raiders defense holds on that third down, whatever price was at the Raiders, let's say it was 10.5, that is going to come crashing down probably to 8.5, just because the field goal unit's going out for the Bengals. And that's where you can really optimize the whole betting strategy with this pre-flop 50% and then 25% added during the game. The other key factor is do not bet this during the second half. The second half has diminishing returns because the game's going to end sooner. And the closer you get to the end of the game, the less chance you have of being right. It's akin to trading stock options on the financial futures market or options on a stock. As you get closer and closer to that expiration time for that option, the time decay is enormous and you run out of time to be correct. So that's why I don't recommend doing anything in the second half. And I've proved that statistically with my models. And it's just, take my word for it, just the first half for these two opportunities is the way to go. Now, of course, you may not get the opportunity to do 25% and 25% because the Raiders scored first and the Raiders beat them 21-3. Okay, that's the downside. That also means that we won the 50% pre-flop bet, and there's nothing wrong with bringing the cash register in a situation like this. But it is enjoyable. It's fun to trade the game, and that's what I call, because I used to be an institutional trader on Wall Street a long time ago. But it's the same strategies that I used in the pits, in the crude oil pits, where you wanted to sell into the strength and buy into the weakness and let the flows, the money flows back then come to you. If you try to get in the way, it's going to be a losing situation. And that's the number two most important thing is don't force it. Like if you want 10.5 and that's the definition, wait for it. Don't go and think like, oh, now it's down to 9.5, I better grab it. Just be patient. The lines are all over the place. You can have a penalty, personal foul call, take away a first down, and all of a sudden that line is a point and a half better for you. And sometimes it won't be. But if you let the volatility work for you and you be patient and just let it come to you to make that decision on the bet, then that's going to work. If you don't get the 10.5, you don't get the 10.5. But I'm telling you, the volatility is enough where patience is rewarded. So now let's go to playoff favorites that trail at the end of the third quarter. And I mentioned this with Ralph Michaels on the Bet On It show just yesterday. And he thought it'd be a good idea that I expand on it a little bit. And that's what we're doing here. So I appreciate all the things that the Bet On It show and especially Ralph Michaels giving me shout outs like that. It's just great. Anyway, this is for teams that are favored at home. The public bet in the playoffs will be the home favorite. It happens all the time. So let's say we're on the home favorite. All right. Or maybe we don't even have a play on the game. All right. If we had a play in the game and our home favorite of 7 points or of no more than 7 points, let's say in this example, is losing at the end of the third quarter and was losing at the end of the first, losing at the end of the second, and now losing at the end of the third, we're not going to feel so good. We're going to be like, oh man, this isn't working. But I'm here to tell you there is good news. And I like this bet, especially when I don't have anything going on the game, because now I am letting the flow of the game, the fact that home favorite of 7 points is now losing outright, give me a tremendous advantage in the fourth quarter. So this in-game bet here does have, it's in the second half. As I said, with the pre-flop, there's no reason to bet in the second half. That's a separate strategy. This is unique to that and has nothing to do with it. This is purely getting a playoff home favorite that's trailing at the end of the third and using the money line. It's produced an ROI of 35% over the last 5 seasons. And there's nothing better. There is nothing better than being on an underdog pre-flop of, and I have at least one every year, that 17.5 or more points. They're usually in the SEC. I had Texas A&M this year who beat Alabama I think it was 21.5 points. Year before was LSU, 27.5 points, defeating Florida in the swamp. These things happen. And it's just so much fun when you have a dog that wins outright. There's nothing better in the sports betting community, in my humble opinion. So this makes the fourth quarter pretty cool because you have the better team, supposedly, at least the betting market was telling you have the better team and a home favorite, but they haven't gotten it done yet. And the pressure of the fourth quarter, the elimination factor of the playoffs, the road team suddenly realized like, oh we have a chance to beat these guys. All that combines, and the home team does produce more come from behind victories in the playoffs than they do during the regular season. So there are 9 games here where I'm going to get the data on this right here. So during this past season, there were 3 games in which the home favorite of 3.5 to 7.5 points trailed by 7 points entering the fourth quarter. The home favorites produced 2 come from behind victories, 2 and 1 straight up. So if you did the money line in those 3 games, you would have done quite well, because the average price on these money line wagers in game going into the fourth quarter is going to be right around plus 170. Again, give or take 20 up or 20 down. It depends on whether the opponent, let's say, is just entered our team's territory to end the third quarter and they're on first down. That will inflate the value of our bet. So the situation on the field is very, very important to recognize when going into the in-game bet, especially with doing it with this favorite, because we obviously want to get the highest money line we can. So keep that in mind. Ideally, we do want the opponent doing something in the territory of our team. We don't need them in the red zone, but around the 40-yard line is where it's optimal. and with a first down. Conversely, we're not going to get that good a price, probably, plus 140, plus 150, even trailing by 7, if our team just crossed the 50-yard line is apparently on a scoring drive to tie the game. So you can have wide swings in this, but over time, as I've documented, it works. So over the last 5 years, home favorites of 3.5 or more points that trailed by no more than 7 points entering the fourth quarter produced 13 comeback wins, 16 losing results. So at the end of the third quarter, you're 0-29. So basically, in that fourth quarter, there's been 13 comebacks of 29 games. In the games that our home favorite was priced between 3.5 and 8.5 points and trailed by no more than 7 points entering the fourth quarter, that produced 13 comebacks and 14 losses. So that's like literally sitting at the blackjack table and playing 27 hands. You win 13, you lose 14, and you're betting $100 a game. You're going to walk out of the casino a loser of $100, except if you hit blackjack a couple of times. But in this particular situation, if you were betting pizza money, which is $20 in my opinion, then you would have made $175. So you have a losing record in these fourth quarter comebacks by the home favorites, but you're making money. So the straight up record is meaningless. The fact that it's right around 50%, 45 to 55% is outstanding. And we're getting rewarded for taking that risk. So, $20 pizza bets like this, and if you're not on the game, it should not be more than your regular size bet on the full game, because things can go awry. Not all these plays win, obviously, but $100 would have made close to 1,000 over these 27 games in which the home favorite 3.5 to 8.5 points was trailing by 6 or 7 points in the fourth quarter. It doesn't really get any better than that for an in-game bet. It's well defined. You have a method. You're not guessing like, I think they're going to score on this drive. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You just watch the game and figure you're getting paid plus 180 on a coin flip. That's essentially what it is. And you do it over time and you keep the discipline. It's going to work. So that'll conclude today's show for the NFL Predictive Playbook. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. And until next time, remember, always bet with your head, not over it, and may all the wins be yours.